Hello YouTube and welcome back to another video from Folk Friend, your one-stop shop for Celtic backing guitar tutorials. My name is Nye, and in today's video I'm going to be carrying on from part 1, which I made recently, in which I was talking about the CAGED system and how you can use it to add cool additions in the session over the top of another guitarist who is playing large chunky chords at the bottom of the fretboard while sounding cool, adding something to the melody and not clashing with other accompanists. In today's video I'm going to be taking that theme a little further and showing you a few handy substitutions that you can use with the miniature shapes that we covered previously and how those can make your playing more interesting and more professional sounding. Before we get into that, I'd like to tell you very quickly about my upcoming Zoom workshop with the incredible American harpist Tiffany Schaefer. We will be doing that on July the 13th. That's at 4 PM UK time. Various other times for people in the States, but they're all quite civilised ones that you'll be able to get to. So please do come and join us. You can get your tickets in the corner of the screen. It's all streamed over Zoom. You can interact with us in real time. There will be specific sections for harpists and guitarists in breakout rooms, and then at the end you'll be able to watch back all the material that we've covered, as well as receiving a free accompanying document with chord diagrams and a complete write-up of everything that we did. Go and check it out, it's in the corner. So let's imagine we've got our gentleman in the corner who's playing a folk tune in the key of G, and he's playing very simple chords that go something like this. Now of course it is important that you put the chords in the right places, and other chord progressions to fit with certain tunes are available other than this one. I've just picked this an example because it is a very common one that does fit with a lot of tunes. So if we were in the key of G, we could take our key chord G, we could run through the CAGED cycle until we find a voicing up here. So G, E, D, C. And I'm going to start with this voicing for a G. I said in the previous video that we often would cut the top off this shape to make it easy to play, and so that our bass notes don't clash with your man over there. So that's what I'm going to play for my chord 1. We already know that for chord 4 we can do a little mini F shape, kind of like this, and for chord 5 we can do a little mini G shape, kind of like this. What we want to do now is fill in the other chords. So this is chord 1, a kind of C shape. For chord 2, if you imagine a D minor shape with a bar here, D minor would be like that, but this is rather difficult to fret, so instead I'm going to make D minor 7 like this, and I do this by flattening my middle finger, adding my ring finger there and making a little mini bar behind it. And in actual fact this mini bar really only needs to do the D string, like that. That's my chord 2. If D minor is chord 2, then a kind of E minor would be chord 3. And I can do that like this, with again my little mini bar on the 7th fret and one finger over here. Or I can make a nicer one with this extra finger over here. Another option for that one, of course, is to take your D minor shape, your 2 chord shape, slide it up 2 frets. Also good. That's the first 3 chords. Chord 4 we've covered, that's the little F shape. Chord 5 is a kind of G shape. Chord 6 is going to be a sort of A minor shape, and again we're going to chop the top 4 strings off that shape rather than making a full bar chord like that. And last but not least, chord 7 unfortunately we can't really do in this world, so instead we'll just use chord 5 as if that's chord 7 as well. So altogether, if I play that as a little ascending chord scale made of these shapes, it'll sound something like this. Now this knowledge can be used in all sorts of ways. I'm just going to give you one example, and then I'm going to let you go away and work out all the millions of other ways that you can use these shapes in your own time. If I take this very common chord progression that we were looking at, I've got chord 1, chord 1, chord 4, chord 5. So if I wanted to play that with a jig rhythm using these shapes, and with a little bit of funky muting where I just let go of the chord slightly straight after I play it, then it would sound like this. If I want to add some substitutions to that, one of the most common things that I could do is just to link up my chord 1 to my chord 4 by playing all the steps in between like a little flight of stairs. So that would sound like this. Something like that. Another nice little example which I could do, if I take my first chord 4 and I substitute it 2 steps upwards to chord 6, and we know we can do that because I've talked lots about why you can substitute chords 1 and chords 4 2 steps up or 2 steps down, but if you don't know why you can do that, then check out my book, which is linked in the corner of the screen, which will tell you all about it. So instead of playing 1 1 4 5, I'm going to play 1 1 6 5. And in order to link my chord 1 down to my 6, I said that instead of 7, we play 5. So I'm going to play 1, 5, 6, 5. And that's going to sound like this. The beauty with these kinds of things is that there are an almost infinite variety of possible substitutions, and you can play them with these little shapes and be heard over somebody else with some cool rhythmic additions that really push the tune along nicely. The really great thing about this is that if the other person is playing in the right key with something simple, your high-pitched additions will not clash with what they're playing. And that is because high-pitched notes, so long as they remain in the key and so long as harmonically they fit with the tune, will not clash with low-pitched notes played with someone else, as long as they are also in the right key. On the other hand, if you were doing it down here near the bottom, it might clash, but up here near the top, no problem. Let's have a look at the rest of the shapes in the CAGED cycle. So I'm going to take another really common folk key, which is D major. I'm going to work my way through the cycle until I find an A-shaped chord with which to play along with this key. So we've got D, then it's the C shape, and then it's the A shape. So if an A-shaped chord is my chord 1, then my chord 2 is going to be a B minor shaped chord. Now we know a B minor has to be a bar chord, so what we're going to do is we're going to move our bar here, and we're going to chop the top off a minor bar chord shape, and that's going to give us this. The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that that's very similar to this shape, which we've already used as chord 1 in the previous example. So this shape is either a major chord with its root note here under your little finger, in this case a G major chord, or it could be a minor chord with the root note here where your index finger would be on the 7th fret, in this case an E minor chord. It doesn't matter which of those two you use it as, because you haven't got a root note at the bottom. You're letting the guy over there play the root notes of whatever. So you can use it for either, and both will work perfectly well. So going back to my example, if chord 1 is an A major shape played here, I'll chop the top off it like so. I might even be lazy and just play a mini bar like this, which is close enough to get away with it. Then for chord 2, I'll play this. For chord 3, I'll just slide that up 2 frets. Then for chord 4, I would have a D shape. So bearing in mind that I started here, my D shape would be there, and I'm just going to make this little triangle part which goes at the top. And instead of doing it with those fingers, which is kind of difficult, I'll just do it with those 3 instead. That's my chord 4. Chord 5, slide it up 2 frets. For chord 6, if my A shape was here, I'm going to make a mini bar here, and that's going to be chord 6, with the optional addition of this finger, which makes it a bit more definite. However, if you play it without that, that'll also work okay. And as we said in the previous example, there isn't really a chord 7 equivalent, we're just going to play chord 5. And if chord 1 is A, chord 5 could be an E shape, like that. So here's all of those shapes in order in a little scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Either slide that up to for 5 or play it with the top of an E-shaped bar chord. That can be my chord 6 or with that finger. And then I'm going to go back to my chord 5 instead of 7 and back to the start. Here they are again without the numbers. What I would do again is practice them going up and practice them going down, and then work out lots of interesting substitutes that you can do for all your favourite major key chord progressions. Next example, let's work on a little further up the fretboard. We'll stay in the key of D major and we'll find a G-shaped chord for that. So if I go back to my D, I've got the C shape, I've got the A shape, here's my G shape. Going through them all in order then, if a G shape is chord 1, an A minor shape is chord 2, slide that up 2 and you've got a B minor shape as chord 3. For chord 4, make a C shape and then chop the top off it. For chord 5 you can make a little D triangle, or you can slide chord 4 up 2 frets, both nice. For chord 6 it's a kind of E minor shape, and for chord 7 we've already said we'll just use chord 5. So if I play through all of those in order, it will sound something like that. The E shapes I particularly like to use in the key of A, and I'll show you why that is in just a second. So let's take a tune in the key of A major. Here's our A shape, then we'd have a G shape there, which is the same chord, or we'd have an E shape here on the 5th fret. Let's chop the top off that chord, and we'll use that as chord 1. If we go up 2 frets and make the top off a minor bar chord, that can be chord 2, and we could slide that up 2 more frets to get chord 3. Now I mentioned I really like to do this for the key of A major. You can do it in any key, but if you're playing solo, you can use the A string as a root note, and that gives you this really nice A chord. And there's all sorts of nice things you can do with just keeping the A note running under these kinds of mini chord progressions up at the top here. You get some lovely sort of dramatic pedal effects with that. Anyway, we can start with an E shape. We can also, instead of making chord 2 like this, just use a little mini bar, which is possibly slightly easier, and slide that up another 2 frets to get chord 3. Chord 4 is going to be an A shape if chord 1 was an E shape, and that A shape is basically a mini bar, the same as the last 2 that we did. So that's chord 4 and chord 5 if I move it up. Chord 6 is going to be very similar to chord 1. If you make what we did for chord 1, the top off an E-shaped bar chord, but add your little finger on the B string, that's going to be your chord 6. And finally, instead of playing chord 7, I'm going to play chord 5 as a dominant chord. Don't worry about this too much, just take your chord that you had for chord 6, slide it up 2 frets, take the middle finger off and make sure that your index finger is barring the top 3 strings, and that'll give you this, which is very nice as chord 7 or chord 5. So in order, we've got 1, 2 is a bar, 3 is a bar, 4 is a bar, 5 is a bar, 6 is like chord 1 with an extra finger, and chord 7 is like that. Last but definitely not least, we have got the D-shaped family. For this one, I'm going to go back to my original example in the key of G. So if I work up from G major, I've got G, that's my E shape, that's my D shape, and that's going to be with the root note on the 5th fret of the D string. So we all know by now I'm going to chop the top off my D chord. That's going to give me this handy little triangle. If D is chord 1, then E minor will be chord 2, and for that I'll do a little mini bar with an extra finger like this. For chord 3, I just slide chord 2 up 2 frets. Chord 4 is going to be a G-shaped chord. Chop the top off it, and that gives you this. Chord 5 is going to be an A-shaped chord, and we know by now for an A-shaped chord we do a little mini bar because we're lazy. Here's a top tip as well: if you want to turn that chord into a stylish dominant chord, then just add a finger there and you'll get that. And you'll find you can use that for lots of things. Chord 6, that is going to be here, like this. And chord 7, as we know by now, we're just going to use chord 5. And again, I'm going to use that little dominant shape. So all together, that is going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 5, and 1. Now I hope you'll be able to find absolutely loads of ways of implementing these, but it's really useful to practice playing through the chord scales using these little shapes, both ascending and descending, for each of the common folky keys, that is C major, G major, D major and A major. I really hope this is useful to you. If you find it a bit esoteric, then please do check out my books. I'm sure you'll be able to discover a lot more ways that you can use this for cool stuff. Do come and join me and Tiffany as well. It's going to be on July the 13th. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to join in a Zoom workshop with people from across the whole planet, all playing folk music together. It's really fun. We've done it once before as well. Don't miss your chance. Come and join us. It's linked in the corner of the screen. If you've got any requests or anything cool like that, then drop me a little comment down below. Let me know how you got on with this tutorial as well. While you're there, please hit the little like button and the subscribe and the bell to be notified when I post more videos. And of course, if you're in Sheffield, then do pop into my shop, Finale Guitar. Check out my guitar brand, Turner Guitars, and visit my music school, Finale Music School, which is also very good, if I do say so myself. Nice one. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.